Hey everybody, Charlie Merrill with Merrill Performance. I'm coming to you from my virtual office, my virtual consult space, and I'll also do some training in here. And I wanted to talk today about the importance of the breath hold that is so critical when we're doing strength training, especially lifting heavy things. And I was teaching my kids about this the other night because they're all teenagers and they're learning how to weight lift. And the idea of a breath hold is something that takes a lot of intention. And as much as coaches and teachers can cue us to do this correctly, until you learn how it feels in your body, I think it's a little bit unnatural and it's a little bit difficult to do. So the idea here is that you're using your core cylinder, the muscles around your trunk, your abdominals, your low back, your hip flexors. You're engaging these in a way that creates stability, and then you're taking a breath in order to what I call pressurize the cylinder or pressurize the can. And sometimes I describe the core as a can of soda that's carbonated. You have the abdominals that form sort of the wall of the can, the circumference of the wall of the can. You have your multifidus muscles in the back, which I describe as the seam that sort of hold the can together. You have your pelvic floor on the bottom, which is the floor of the can that keeps all the contents from spilling out. And then you have your diaphragm on the top. And when you take that breath in, you're putting the top on the can and taking air in to pressurize it. So I'm going to show you the technique with a deadlift so that you can understand it. But know that this applies to just about any strength training movement, especially heavy movements you'll do in the gym. Now, as I address the bar, the first thing I'm going to do is come down and find the position I want to start in. As I do that, I'm going to take a big exhale. I'm going to breathe all my air out. And as I do that, I'm going to draw my abdominals in. At the same time, I'm doing other things like driving my knees out. I'm trying to find my neutral spine position by firing my back muscles. I'm using my hip flexors to sort of keep my tailbone from tucking and losing my neutral spine position. But what I want you to focus on here is the exhale and how that draws in your core cylinder. It's like putting on a corset. So once I find my setup position and I exhale, I'm going to take a big breath in before I go. I'll do that again so you can see how fast it happens as I come down to my setup. So guys, check it out. I'm going to show you the difference between rep 1, where I'm not stabilizing with my abs at all, and I pick up the weight, so my abs are distended. The second rep, where I try to stabilize with my abs, but then when I take my breath, my abs distend and I lose my stability. And then rep number 3, where I do it correctly, where I do my exhale, I create tension, and I maintain that drawn in feeling of tension as I take my sip of air to create a pressurized cylinder. Ready? Rep 1, I'm just going to start with my abs distended, and I'm going to take my breath. They distend even more. I can still do the lift, but I don't feel very stable. Rep number 2, I try to draw in, take my breath there, totally lose it, still do the lift, just doesn't feel great. Rep number 3, draw in, take my breath, stay tight. That's the strongest rep by far. Now when I'm pulling off the ground, my first breath hold with that draw in comes when the weight's on the floor. When I get the weight to the top, I'm going to exhale all my air. That's going to reset my abdominal tension drawn in. And then I'm going to take that same breath before I start my second rep. I'm going to hold that breath all the way to the floor, tap the plates, and then come all the way back up again before I exhale to reset my abs for the third rep. Same thing, I'm going to reset, draw tension, sip of air in, and then I'm going to do my next rep. you notice every rep, that exhale gives me a chance to reestablish my core cylinder and my tension, and to then repressurize with that in-breath before I initiate the next rep. So there's a ton to think about before any heavy lift, from your setup to your foot placement, your body position, driving your knees out, pre-tensioning your hamstrings, where's my head, my shoulder blades. There are all these details to focus on. Breathing, though, is one of the most foundational principles or habits that you can build before any heavy lift. I call it a habit because, like any Olympic lift or heavy lift or skill-based activity, practice and repetition is the only way that you build a habit. And while this feels maybe a little bit awkward at first, and it feels different from what you're used to, the more you practice it, as you can see as I got toward the end of my that last clip where I'm doing it more quickly, I can then cycle with that breathing pattern at a pretty fast tempo as I'm moving through reps. So take your time with this, practice even at a little bit lighter weight, practice at a lower speed, and then, like any movement, as you build skill and build habit, increase the intensity and the speed and the weight. Hey, I hope this helps. Drop me a comment. Let me know what's working, what's not. Take a second to subscribe. Click the like button. I appreciate you all. Now go lift some heavy stuff, and I'll see you next time.